Yeah, of course, we're still on election watch. I keep saying mark April the 12th in your diary. That would mean the Prime Minister calls it this Sunday for April the 12th. A new poll of voters in 20 marginal seats by Redbridge has found that 31% of respondents believe Peter Dutton is the best person to manage our relationship with the United States, well ahead of the PM on 22%. Let's bring in expert number cruncher and former Labor Senator John Black live from Brisbane. Good to talk to you again, John. Gee, with all that kerfuffle in the Oval Office over the weekend and so much focus on what's going to happen with the US and Ukraine, and as well as what's happening in our region with China, this is palpable, really. Who will handle that US relationship best? When you look at the number of people who say both, I suppose you've really got to, if you give that to both of the contenders, you've got sort of Dutton at 52 as against Albanese at 42. So it's a reasonable lead for him, I suppose.
Well, it is, and you've got to acknowledge that Trump is a wild card in this election and in a lot of other elections around the world. The actions that he undertakes are pretty unpredictable. They're pretty much self-absorbed, and he sees himself on the stage and everybody else is mere meretricious players. You never know what he's going to say, what he's going to do and what the implications are going to be. So a steady hand on the tiller back in Australia would be useful, and Dutton does have a lead there.
You know, Peter Dutton's obviously got a strong record as he's been a defence minister, he's been a home affairs minister, he's helped to keep our borders secure. He's seen as a strong man. Labor have often attacked him as being heartless, but I suppose that polling, it plays to that, doesn't it? That Dutton is seen as strong, and Albanese, on many of these issues, highlighted by the China fleet last week, is seen as weak.
Well, he is, and it's not simply the poll that you're talking about. I think there was another one from Resolve, the Sydney Morning Herald poll had very, very similar findings. So the Prime Minister is generally regarded as weak in terms of leadership capacity, which is pretty damning, really.
Now, the Western Australians go to the polls for a state election on Saturday. The Liberals have been reduced to a bare rump there, right? Roger Cook expected to be returned handsomely. Does that then, what do we read from that? Does that just having a Labor win give Anthony Albanese a bit of a boost to call the election perhaps the next day for April the 12th?
Well, look, if he's going to call an early election, he will do it the next day because he wouldn't want to overlap the WA election. Otherwise, Peter Cook would be saying, Roger Cook would be saying unpleasant things about him. But there's no doubt that if Labor wins at the state level, it's not going to help federal Labor candidates because there's this sense of desire for balance between state and federal government. So if you have a state government that represents the Labor Party, then there's an inclination on the part of voters in that state to look for the other party to lead at the federal level. We saw this in Queensland when I think about 14% of voters used to switch between Peter Cook and John Howard, and they do it within 6 to 9 months. So that's been a phenomenon for some time. So I'm going to be watching the WA results with interest to see whether or not there's any drop in the vote for federal Labor candidates as a result of state Labor being returned. I expect there to be something like that.
That factor of liking to hedge your bets between state and federal governments then is also going to play very strongly for the coalition in New South Wales and Victoria.
Yeah, look, it's really interesting, Chris, because the two parties, the two federal parties, don't have particularly strong policy profiles on a lot of issues. It's pretty opportunistic at the moment. I mean, Labor's spraying money around with a fire hose, and Peter Dutton saying, "Well, yeah, okay, then all right, I'll do the same."
Yeah.
But so as a result of that, you've got a lot of influence from state factors, and the Victorian state ALP government is in its death throes, and it's like a loaded dog for the federal Labor candidates over there. So we're looking at about 8 or 9 seats going from Labor to the coalition in that state, just because primarily of state factors. And the New South Wales Labor government is on the nose as well, quite seriously. So there's another 6 or 7 seats going from left to right there. South Australia, nothing much happening. Maybe 1 seat might go from one to the other and then vice versa. Tasmania, there's only 5 you're playing with. 1 might go, 1 might not, but it's not going to make a big difference. The same for the NT. Queensland is a state where the coalition have big advantages via the LNP, and I was watching that really closely because I fully expected to see some drop in support for the LNP candidates or the coalition federal candidates. We haven't seen it yet. And Chris Afuli here, the LNP Premier, from the point of view of being an old Labor bloke, I think he's doing okay.
Yep.
We've got a cyclone coming down on us, mate, in a couple of days, and he's doing all the right things. He's been in the right place at the right time, and he looks like he's got his hands on the tiller. So I don't think he's going to cost the LNP any seats here at this stage.
All right.
Moreover, there's a few Green seats that might go back to the LNP. And the seat of Griffith might be won by the ALP. The LNP doesn't have a candidate here in Griffith yet, mate. A bit hard to win.
We'll see. We'll see. It looks like it's going to be very, very tight. Thanks for joining us, John. I appreciate it. We are out of time.